Our special guest today, Jodi Owens, coordinator for the Repel Diabetes Learning Center. And Jodi, you've brought some tips with us today. Will you share some of those, some safety tips, since it's summertime, and especially for diabetics who may have some other issues they're dealing with in particular?
It's so important. I think, number one, you know, when we do our education classes and we do our diabetes classes, we talk about seasonal things. And because we have the classes going on, and because right now it is summertime, like you said, it is just one of the big things on my list in every situation is how hydrated are you, and how much fluid intake are you getting. And I think people just do not realize there are so many ways to lose fluid when it's hot outside. And just because you're not actively sweating or you're not out working, you know, on the farm or in the yard, doesn't mean that you're not losing that hydration, especially when the temperatures get up there. Even setting outside sometimes can pull from that, you know, with the heat and the hot weather and being in the sunshine. And it's great, you know, we need that good sunshine and the vitamin D and everything, but also, you know, staying hydrated. And so a good rule of thumb usually is for every hour that you're outside in the heat, even if you're just outside, is to try to have about 8 ounces of water.
Really?
Just try to replenish yourself. Especially important for my patients who have diabetes, who have other health issues, who are maybe trying to get those blood sugars back down a little bit. And I always say no news is good news with me, so I typically only see people when they're having some problems or having some issues. And this time of year, the number one thing is, you know, are you hydrated? Are you making sure that you're getting fluid? And also, are you getting enough to eat? Because, and I know that sounds crazy and that sounds silly for people.
Well, a lot of times you don't feel that like eating quite as much in the hotter weather.
We don't tend to eat as much when it gets hot, especially not if we are, like I said, you know, out enjoying the lakes or going out and doing outdoor activities. And it's important to make sure that, you know, especially if you're taking diabetes medications or insulins, that you are having a snack. You know, swimming is one of the most vigorous activities that we can do because we're using all of our muscles and all of our muscle groups, and people don't realize how much energy that's burning.
Sure, say just oh, I'm just treading water here, but you're actually burning up a whole lot of calories.
You really are using a lot of calories just even walking around in the water and getting, you know, even partially, and you don't have to swim all the way out to get a good exercise in. But again, you know, every hour of activity that you are doing vigorous things like that, like walking up and down the creek or swimming in the water, you really need to be having some sort of snack in there, and a small, you know, very, very small snack. It doesn't have to be a lot, but that's a lot of times when people get into trouble also with the low blood sugars.
Sure.
And so we kind of have a catch-22 with both of those things, you know. On the flip side of hydration, that's an easy thing to do. And on the snacking side of things, and especially, like I said, especially people that are taking medications, just make sure that you are getting a good snack in, a granola bar.
I was going to just ask what kind of thing,
or,
a piece of fruit?
A piece of fruit and some nuts, or you know, some cheese crackers, something like that you can balance out a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat in there, heart healthy fat with the nuts or with the cheese, and then a little bit of carbohydrates in there. And so that usually does very well, and those are easy things to pack up and take with you.
Right.
You know, even a little half sandwich or something like that. Those are, you know, we typically tend to take those with us anyways, with me and my kids, and how we travel around and do things in the summer. Even the little packages of peanut butter crackers work really well.
Oh, that'd be a good
one
to take.
Yeah, those are easy to grab and go type things. So just little things like that, and not typically I see folks that like to eat breakfast and then they like to eat dinner, and there's sort of nothing in between there. And that's when you can get into trouble as well, especially when it's hot outside. And like you said, you don't feel like eating a lot. So you typically don't eat quite as much. But those two issues, I think, are our biggest summer safety issues. And avoiding, you know, a lot of heat exhaustion. It says to plan your exercises and your activities. If you are on an exercise regimen and you're used to getting up, you might need to get up a little bit earlier because it is starting to get
cooler.
It is starting to get hot in the early morning hours now. And then also, you know, typically I say exercise in the evening when it cools down, when the sun goes down and it's not quite as hot outside, and trying to avoid that heat of the day, exhaustion and major stress on the body. couple of other things that we kind of try to, I guess, myth bust or get down to the nitty gritty of is sports drinks, and I don't have anything against them.
I was going to ask you on that. That was right at the top of my mind going,
Sure.
when you say hydrate, you're really talking about water.
Yeah.
Just water.
I'm talking about water. I'm talking about water's first cousin, Crystal Light. I'm talking about some of those just very basic things. And a lot of people don't like just plain water, so some of those additives and some of those things, as long as they don't have a lot of carbohydrates in them or a lot of added sugars, then they're fine. Where we tend to get in trouble is with the caffeinated drinks, even if they're diet.
Right.
A lot of our drinks and a lot of our sodas, even the diet ones, are going to have quite a bit of caffeine in them. And then and we're all adults here, alcoholic beverages. You know, those two things with caffeine and with alcohol, they tend to dehydrate us a little quicker.
Yeah.
And so that typically is where most people they think they're replenishing their fluids.
Sure.
But it's really not sticking with them long enough to make a difference.
I've noticed even on the labels like diet sodas, there's no calories in it, but there's 35 milligrams of sodium.
There's sodium,
there's
sodium, caffeine, you know, and typically, you know, we get up and maybe have a cup of coffee in the morning, but then if you are continuing to drink the caffeinated beverages all day, that's going to put you at higher risk or set you up a little bit more for some higher levels of dehydration, because you literally are losing that.
Yeah, they act
out
as a
very
diuretic,
quick.
so
Yes.
that you're losing more than you're
retaining. And let me preface this whole conversation. I should have said in the beginning, you know, if someone is on a fluid restriction, obviously they have to pay close attention. And some of our patients do have to watch their fluid intake. But if you've never been told, or you're not conscious about, or have problems with congestive heart failure or any of those things, then I cannot stress enough to push that water. You know, throw some lemon slices in there. We do strawberry lemon at my house. A couple of strawberries sliced up and some lemons, and my kids just think that's the biggest, neatest thing ever. I was like, if I would have known that, I've been doing this for a long time, you know. But jazz it up a little. Yeah, put it in a little spouted, you know, pitcher or container, and just set it in the fridge. And that way you've got that constant fresh water, cold water.
Yeah.
And the sports drinks are good if you are outside and you're working and you're not able to get to a snack, or you're not able to get to a meal, if you will. But those things tend to replenish us more than we need.
Yeah.
And talking about, excuse me, talking about the sodium content, you know, a lot of times with the sports beverages, they have a lot of sugar in them, which is fine. Again, if you were
using all of that up.
If you're outside and you're actually burning those calories and things. But if you're not, just drinking on one of those is going to add to the sugar content in your body quite a bit. And people don't realize, you know, one regular jug or container of that sometimes is the equivalent of like 2 slices of bread.
Oh, wow.
And so it is kind of a little bit more than we realize, getting those calories in from our beverages.
There's something about if it's in a liquid form, it can't be that harmful.
Yeah, we just don't think about having that many
it's not solid, therefore.
calories and that much sugar. And they do, the great folks, you know, I know that the Gatorades and Powerades and things have come out with some lower sugar versions, which is a good alternative also.
Especially for all your diabetic folks.
Yes,
you bet.
but they still have to realize that those beverages do have some sugar in them. And then the sodium in them is just, you know, out the roof as far as the sodium content, which again is great if you are sweating. If you're actively sweating and you're losing that sodium and you're losing that sweat, otherwise it's not necessary. And I think, you know, for a long time we thought those were just really healthy drinks and we all needed them. The average person gets somewhere between 3 and 5 times enough sodium that they need in a day's allowance just by eating regular foods.
Their regular foods.
Yeah, because a lot of our foods now are so much more and so heavily laden with salt, as opposed to previous days and previous eating patterns when we were doing a little bit fresher and usually not quite as much processed stuff.
We didn't need the preservatives like they're using it now.
And that is, you know, times are changing and we have to roll with the punches, I know, and so just trying to look at those things and be smart about them and be aware. That's the biggest thing. As an educator and as a nurse, you know, working with these patients and working with these people, it's more about making them aware of the choices that they're making.
And I know you do that in conjunction with Jan Halligan.
We do, we do.
And she certainly...
We kind of buddy up together and get to really tackle, you know, so many different areas with our patients, and we're so fortunate to have what we have there at the center because it's sort of an overall approach, you know. Jan does a great job with the nutrition aspects, the hydration. She really, you know, hits hard heavy. Matter of fact, the actual information that I brought today that we were discussing about the summer safety, she actually had found, and she has put out some copies of this sheet over here at the center for folks to pick up and take with them as they go. So if anybody wants to come by and grab a copy, we also have some, she's put together some nice recipes for grilling and some good other summer safety issues. So
let's take a short break and talk about those as soon as we come back. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.